Hello everyone, welcome back to another English language video. Today we are looking at the AQA GCSE English language paper 1 question 2. Now question 2 is all about language analysis. So we are looking at the following question. Look in detail at this extract from lines 6 to 11 of the source. So we are looking at these specific lines. So the exam board have provided us with the paragraph. So we will simply read it and annotate it for key language features. Now it reads, what had awakened him was the noise from the storm, wind lashing the trees, rain on the rooftop, and thunder. He turned on the light with a sensation of being adrift in a boat and pushed closer to the bulk of the large dog sleeping beside him. He pictured the roaring Pacific Ocean a few blocks from his house, spilling in furious waves against the rocks. He lay listening to the storm and thinking about the blackbird and about his mother, waiting for the pounding in his chest to die down. He was still tangled in the images of his bad dream. How does the writer use language here to describe the effects of the storm? You could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. And this question is worth 8 marks. So what I would like you all to do is to pause the video and read it again and jot down any keywords and phrases and annotate it in your writing pad. Here are the annotations I have come up with. So we have many examples. So the first one we have is what had awakened him was the noise from the storm. So we already know that is an example of auditory imagery. So these are all loud noises that he can already hear because of the brutal effects of the storm. Wind lashing the trees. I've highlighted or circled the verb lashing, which is an aggressive verb. It's showing you the power, the brutal force of Mother Nature. Wind lashing the trees, comma, rain on the rooftop, and thunder. So that is an example of rule of 3. And also, we have, he pictured the roaring Pacific Ocean. So I've circled the word roaring, which is an example of zoomorphism. Now, what is this? This is when you give animal features to a non-animal being or object or item, etc. And it really brings the storm into life, and it shows you how aggressive and how intimidating and how ferocious the storm really was. And roaring is again similar to the sounds of a lion, the king of the jungle, which is loud, which is aggressive. It's as if the storm, being the predator, attacks its prey, which is the land. It does it in an aggressive manner, and it does it with furiosity. Also, spilling in furious waves. I've highlighted this, which is an example of personification. The reason why this is personification is because furious waves cannot be furious, but again, it's a human characteristic, it's a human trait. Can humans be furious? Yes, absolutely. Now, the writer has used personification here to show you how the waves, how the storm has become angry. It's full of rage. And what does this tell you? It tells you how intimidating, how dominant, and how authoritative the storm really is. He lay listening to the storm and thinking about the blackbird and about his mother. Now, blackbird, that's an example of symbolism because it symbolizes the death. And also, if you think about a blackbird, you think about a crow, and a crow has associations with death and negative things. Waiting for the pounding in his chest to die down. I've also underlined that, which is an example of emotive language because it's evoking emotions. It's showing you how nervous and startled Alex really was. So these are some of the examples and some of the annotations I have come up with for question 2. And it's again a wise idea to have detailed annotations for question 2 and question 3 and 4. The reason I say this is because the better your annotations, generally you'll have a better answer. And it also makes it easier for you to write an excellent response. So let's have a look at the question. So I have answered this, and this is a model answer which I have written and shown to my students. So it begins the following. The writer uses violent imagery to demonstrate the terrifying effects of the storm. Remember, the focus of this question is on the effects of the storm. That's the key focus. Now, a lot of students, and again, a lot of my own students, diverted and went on a tangent because they started talking about his nightmare. But this question here is specifically about the effects of the storm. So the writer uses violent imagery. So violent imagery is it's almost as if you can picture the violence of the storm to demonstrate the terrifying effects of the storm. The wind is extremely powerful, and the verb lashing. So look at language, how I've used language. This is an example of words and phrases. I've identified correctly the word class. Lashing is an example of a verb. And the verb lashing highlights the ruthless nature of the storm, as if Mother Nature is viciously attacking the land like a ferocious predator. So if you remember from our annotations, this is exactly what we have been discussing, and I've put this within that paragraph. As a result, the reader is left startled as they acknowledge the brutal power of the storm and how Mother Nature was inflicting damage on anything that crossed its path. So remember, this question requires you to look at the effect on the reader. Now, have I done this successfully? Yes. Have I identified the language? Yes. And have I explained in detail? Yes. So this is an excellent example of a first paragraph for question 2. Moving on to my second paragraph. Furthermore, so make sure you use discourse markers such as in addition, furthermore, moreover. Furthermore, the writer implements personification. Okay, so as you can see, if I scroll back up, this is an example of language features and techniques. So personification is one of your language techniques, and it's used by the writer. Now, just some important information for students. You can get full marks by simply looking at words and phrases, language features and techniques. If you miss out sentence forms, it doesn't mean you cannot score 8 out of 8. But if there's something to comment on sentence forms, you should comment on it. But if it's not there, do not force it because it's not necessary for you to get full marks. So furthermore, the writer implements personification to accentuate the devastating effects of the storm. Very important to look at that clear point. I've identified the technique the writer has used. Accentuate means to emphasize. Now I need to provide evidence or a relevant quote to support my point. So as you can see, that's my point. This can be illustrated in the words furious waves, which is my quote, which portrays how the Pacific Ocean is viciously crashing against the helpless rocks with furiosity. It is as if the storm is a tyrannical monster seeking vengeance. Look at the perceptive commentary. Now, the mark scheme states for students to show detailed and perceptive analysis. So, as you can see, this is an example of perceptive analysis because you're reading between the lines and you're thinking outside the box, because within the text they don't mention anything about a tyrannical monster, but here you're using your inference and you're looking at the quotation from a different angle. Therefore, the reader is left awestruck, again, explain the effect on the reader, as they continue to be surprised by the sheer force of the storm. Excellent. So this again is an amazing example of how to analyze language. It's detailed and perceptive. Moving on to my third paragraph, so if I just switch over. Moreover, the brutal effects of the storm are demonstrated through auditory imagery. So what is auditory imagery? Auditory imagery is quite simply sounds which you can almost imagine. This can be illustrated in the quotation, roaring Pacific Ocean. This is my quote, which indicates the thunderous noise of the storm. Look how intimidating and how violent the storm really is. The writer uses zoomorphism. So we've already annotated this in the insert previously. So the writer uses zoomorphism to depict the storm like a vicious lion, full of rage as it attacks and devours its prey. Lions, being the king of the jungle, roar, and attack their helpless prey. Similarly, the writer presents a similar notion as the predator, which is the storm, is roaring in fury. Look at the link I've made. Look at the sophistication within my analysis. I've linked a predator-prey relationship, a lion and a deer, to the insert, to the extract, where the storm is the predator and the land is the prey. As a result, the readers acknowledge how the storm was visually destroying everything in its path and creating intimidating sounds during the assault. This further adds to the point how both the wind and waves joined forces in their intentional assault on the land. Look at all this commentary. Very sophisticated, very perceptive. And this is exactly what you need to show the examiner. You need to impress the examiner and show them you really understand how to effectively analyze language, and not just in a clear manner, but in a sophisticated and perceptive manner. And finally, the writer uses the rule of three, so this is again another language technique, to show the effects of the storm. Notice how I start each paragraph. Now, make sure you use a supporting quote to answer the question. This can be illustrated in the quotation wind lashing the trees, rain on the rooftop, and thunder, which depicts the magnitude of power the storm had. So look at the list of three, or the rule of three, how impactful this is. The readers can almost visualize Alex being overwhelmed with the deafening sounds of the storm and witnessing the assault. The writer successfully utilizes the rule of three to portray the authoritative, dominant, and ferocious nature of the storm. There is no doubt Mother Nature has the pinnacles of power, and the readers are reminded of the lethal consequences. And that, students, is an example of a grade 9 answer, 8 out of 8. So what can you take from this video is that you need to provide detailed perceptive analysis and always try to look at the quotes from multiple angles. Show sophistication with your analysis if you want to get a level 4. I hope this has given everyone a better understanding of language analysis for language paper 1. We are going to do a model answer for question 3 on structure, and then question 4 on evaluation. Please subscribe, like and share for more education related videos. Thank you for watching.